We amass troops on the western border of Ukraine, give Putin a clear message that he has 48 hours to withdraw troops from Ukraine's internationally recognized borders and wrap up his so-called special military operation, or we're gonna do it for him. If he takes the hint, he will comply, and if he doesn't, then, well, it's going to be a Russian soldier hunting season. We wouldn't even have to deploy infantry, literally just send in a few squadrons of F-35s and F-22s, literally shred their air force, then blow the Russians the fuck out of their foxholes. Once their platoons start...
So I came across this video on my feed a while ago, and, you know, I just had to drop a reaction to this because... what you're about to hear is the most absolute bonkers note, mankind.
So we are entering the third year of the biggest invasion on European soil since World War II. Progress has stagnated on the battlefield. Neither side has done anything noteworthy aside from the Kursk incursion that started a few months ago. America and its allies maintain that...
That's not really noteworthy. It's just a PR stunt. There's absolutely zero value in Kursk whatsoever. I mean, had the Ukrainians took in Kursk city itself, yeah, that would be noteworthy, but you just taking a whole bunch of villages, small villages, and countryside, that's not really noteworthy.
They are committed to support Ukraine until it takes back everything that was stolen from it, and while we are gradually seeing more and more equipment be delivered to them, this whole strategy is really not that effective. Don't get me wrong, it is going to work in the long run, but the issue with having somebody else fight with your equipment is that it generally takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of bodies to achieve the desired outcome. Just a few weeks ago, the total amount of casualties has reached 1 million, and this strategy requires consistency too, which...
I just want to point out, by the way, the Ukrainian government has not officially released their casualty numbers, by the way. So, you know, use basic common sense, right? Why would the Ukrainian government not want to release their casualty count, all right? Again, this is like a genius to like look at that and be like, that's actually quite odd, right?
Which we do not always have. Just a few months ago, Ukraine was having serious ammo shortages because the aid package they needed was stuck on the house floor for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the funny part about this, right? I'm seeing so many people say, oh, Ukraine is holding off Russia. Dude, Ukraine literally cannot hold off Russia by itself. That's absolutely not. It goes to show you just how absolutely bad of a country Ukraine is, right? Like, you can say whatever you want about Russia, but at the end of the day, Russia is still self-sufficient. It's still replenishing everything that it loses. And that's objectively true. Meanwhile, we have Ukraine here and, Bagensky, right? Begging every single second, like more than a freaking homeless person, dude. It's just funny because it's like, how does Ukraine, right, a country with so much potential, be get that low? How does a country get that freaking low? Dude, use basic common sense. Come on, use basic common sense. This isn't Russian propaganda. This is just basic common sense, dude. Poorest country in Europe, pre-war stats, by the way. It's funny because you'll see so many like Yukis, as I call them. You'll see so many Ukrainian supporters like unironically like they try to bash Russia for like being poor or whatever, even though that's technically not true. But they just completely just ignore like every single thing that is wrong with Ukraine, like the corruption, which is one of the reasons why Ukraine can't even have a self-sustaining industrial military, by the way, or the fact that it's extremely poor, or the fact that it has a very bad problem with this oligarchy, right? They just completely ignore that. And this is all objectively true facts, by the way, but let's continue.
Now, thankfully, it did pass, but that just goes to show how unstable and inefficient this whole approach is. But there is another way to go about this, one that will save countless lives, save us lots of time and money, and will teach this new ragtag axis of losers to stay the fuck out of other countries for good.
This guy Sounds like nerd emoji, bro. Unironically.
Simply have to do what we did back in 1991.
Yes.
See, at the
1991. Remember when America completely butchered Iraq's sovereignty and, completely, engaged in imperialism for its own interests in 1991? Yep. Please don't come in my comments talking about, but my UN. Please don't, because I already made a video basically addressing all that. Yeah, 1991, guys, remember that? Yes, I remember when America engaged in imperialism in 1991. I can bring up a bunch of other times where America engaged in acts of imperialism, violating country sovereignty. Yes, I can. How many times has Russia done that in the modern age? Let's see here. Don't bring up Chechnya, because Chechnya was an illegal breakaway state. Don't bring up Georgia, because when you actually dig deeper into the whole Georgia fiasco, hilariously enough, it was actually Georgia that kind of provoked Russia into intervention. Hilariously enough, you could go look this up and find your own details. I'm not really talking about those two countries. We're talking about Ukraine here. Let's see here. Oh, wait a minute. I can't think of anything else. Oh, wait, I know, because Russia doesn't go around engaging in imperialism and violating country sovereignty left, right, and center. Oh, but Ukraine. But what about Ukraine? That's a whole different story. I wouldn't really say Russia violated Ukraine's sovereignty. No, first of all, I mean, the coup in 2014 wasn't even legal. That's objectively true. They literally failed to impeach the president of Ukraine at the time, and they literally coup d'etat him right afterward, right? Extreme far-right group coup d'etat him right afterward. That literally is what happened, objectively speaking. And, when you completely violate a country's sovereignty like that, right? I mean, at that point, it's just fair game. So, hilariously enough, when he fled to Russia, he actually asked for Russian help. So the legitimate president of Ukraine at the time requested for Russian help. The reason why Russia didn't do anything is because Russia knew that it would have gotten sanctioned to death. So Putin had to sit there and wait for years upon years upon years, essentially just stocking up money and means to bypass sanctions to come. Otherwise, he would have done it all the way back in 2014, really and truly. So no, do not say that Russia violated Ukraine's sovereignty, because it really and truly it did not. I would argue that it did not. Okay, let's continue.
At the time, Saddam Hussein owed a huge debt to Kuwait after he finished fighting the Iran-Iraq war. And after Kuwait refused to forgive the debt, he decided to launch a full-scale invasion to the country in order to cancel that debt and secure their oil fields. Upon launching the invasion, Saddam proclaimed that Kuwait is not a real country, it doesn't deserve to exist, and that it was always destined to be a part of Iraq. Kind of like what a certain someone says about Ukraine pretty often. Now, of course, this being the huge breach of international law that it was, America and its allies decided to step in. And they stepped in hard. Within just a few days...
Wow, bro, how much money is this guy getting from the CIA, bro? This guy needs a job at the State Department immediately, bro. This is like music to the U.S. State Department's ear, bro.
42 different countries with America at the helm amassed over 900,000 troops on the Saudi border with Iraq as part of Operation Desert Shield. On January 17, 1991, after Saddam had refused to withdraw his troops, the operation that we all...
Oh, by the way, I'm just going to bring this up. Saddam accused Kuwait of cross-drilling, and unfortunately, we can't really prove if this is true or not. Historians can't really prove if that was true or not, but that may have actually been true. There's a good chance that he was not lying about that, which is one of the reasons why he invaded Kuwait, by the way, because he was accusing Kuwait of cross-drilling, thus impacting Iraq's revenue in oil, and that was affecting oil prices. And he may have actually not been lying about that. It's funny how he completely overlooks that. Just says basically just American propaganda. This is literally just American propaganda right here, folks.
Although today as Desert Storm commenced, in which America and several other countries drove Iraq the fuck out of Kuwait, and that was the last time Iraq ever touched it. A similar operation, if it were to be
Well, it's funny because they drove him out of Kuwait. And if this was an operation to liberate Kuwait, you'd stop at the Kuwaiti border, right? When Kuwait was fully liberated, you'd stop there. No, that's not what happened. They kept going because it wasn't just to liberate Kuwait. No. I already talked about this in my Gulf War reaction, but I'm just saying, use basic common sense. It is basic common sense. It's basic common sense, dude. Come on. Why would they keep going if they pushed the Iraqis out of Kuwait? Because there was more than just Kuwait, dummy.
Executed in Ukraine will be able to drive Russia out of the country in a matter of days with minimal casualties on our side. And it will send a clear message to Russia.
So, did you hear what he said? Listen to what he said.
That was the last time Iraq ever touched it. A similar operation, if it were to be executed in Ukraine, will be able to drive Russia out of the country in a matter of days with minimal casualties on our side. And it will send a clear message to Russia, China, Iran, and any of their other buddies to not even think about putting their hands on other countries.
Yes. But when America puts its hands on other countries, it's A-okay, guys. Also, it's funny to hearing how completely moronic this guy is, who doesn't understand geopolitics at all. I find it hilarious when people think Russia and China are like friends. Yeah, no, that's not the case. Russia and China are frenemies. Well, not even frenemies. It's more like a mutual relationship between the two, but they both have completely differing goals. And also the fact that the whole, Russia owns what used to be a part of the Qing Empire, and China would love to get that back from Russia, hilariously enough. So I don't really call Russia and China friends, actually. In fact, Russia has been trying to settle the Far East for a long time because there's actually a good national security risk, because China is populated around the Manchuria area so much more than Russia in the Vladivostok area. So yeah, I wouldn't really call them friends. This is more of a mutual relationship, to be honest. Nothing more. But of course, this guy is going to understand that he just eats up American propaganda and eats it all at face value. You need a job at the State Department, seriously.
The only reason this hasn't happened yet is because Western leaders have this incredibly stupid, irrational fear that if we were to kick Russia out of Ukraine, Putin would throw a hissy fit and nuke everyone in response. Of course,
yes. That's exactly what would happen.
We would nuke him back, so essentially he would just get everyone, including himself, killed in the process. He could just, live out the rest of his days in the Kremlin, oppressing his people to his heart's content until he eventually dies a peaceful death surrounded by his friends and family, or he can just...
Who's getting oppressed in Russia? Is the oppression in the room with us? Who's getting oppressed in Russia? Let's compare the two, shall we? Again, this is my point. Ukraine was literally ranked as a soft dictatorship pre-war, but everybody completely ignores that. I don't see Russia dragging its people off the street to force them to the front lines like Ukraine is doing. Against their will, by the way. It's funny how a lot of these Westerners just don't talk about the fact that so many people are draft dodging in Ukraine. So the Ukrainians don't want to fight for their own country. That should tell you a lot. It should tell you a lot. But where's the oppression in Russia? Where is the oppression? I mean, last time I checked, Russians are really like North Korea. I'm really trying to figure out where's the oppression in Russia. It's like, where? Like, please. I can't really think of anything because Russia is more or less the same. Oh, but Russia banned YouTube. That's not really oppressing people. The whole Russia banning YouTube thing, unironically, did have some merit because Google was clearly biased towards Russia, banning like pro-Russian artists, anything pro-Russian, really and truly. They clearly discriminated against it. Anything pro-Ukrainian, they just completely glazed it. So I'm not really surprised that that was banned in Russia. So that's not really oppression there. What else is there? Oh, but the people protesting against the war in Ukraine and Russia that were put in jail, and most of them were more or less released anyways. That's not really oppression, to be honest. One, because Russian people are kind of ignorant. You see, a lot of Russian people are, not all Russian people, but a lot of them are kind of just ignorant about the whole situation in Ukraine. So, you know, it's like, why would you want that ignorance to spread? Why would you want that ignorance to spread? Simple. So, you know, when you see a whole bunch of people gathered around protesting, you know, obviously you're going to have to do something about that because you don't want more people becoming ignorant, right? So, the thing is that Russia has a population crisis. The death penalty is literally illegal in Russia, by the way. Russia doesn't even execute people. So, oh, but what if you speak out against the government? Well, I don't want to talk about that part, mostly because you could just say that you don't want foreign agents spewing complete BS against the government, really and truly. That has happened plenty of times, by the way. There's even laws in plenty of Western countries, more or less trying to protect itself from foreign agents, right? You know, color revolutions, which is something that America loves to do, right? It was fund foreign operations in said country that is trying to have a color revolution, which is basically just a fancy way of saying regime change, right? To put a more basically a Western puppet in power so that it could exploit those countries' resources and whatnot, which America would love to do to Russia. But, you know, yeah, no, if the whole Putin regime thing, that's not going to happen, right? Which is what America really cares about Ukraine for, by the way. America doesn't care about Ukraine. America just wants to use Ukraine to weaken Russia. That's objectively true. America does not really care about Ukraine. It really does not. Ow. So please don't come in my comments telling me, oh, but you can't speak out against the government. If anybody was saying a whole bunch of BS about you that wasn't true, wouldn't you not want to do something about it? I'm pretty sure you would. Now, me personally, as somebody who has dealt with that before, where people had a bunch of BS that was said about me that wasn't true, I completely understand why the Russian government is quick to arrest those people who tend to say things that are not, let's just say, completely true. Simple. So, where's the oppression? I mean, I'm trying to figure it out, really and truly. Like, Russian people are not oppressed. Like, I talk to Russian people all the time, and they're not oppressed. Like, last time I talked to a Russian person was like a month ago, I think. I talked to a person that lived in like Moscow. They already have an impression over there. And I have a Russian friend who lives in St. Petersburg. It doesn't really tell me about anything oppressive over there. Yeah, okay. I mean, I would love to hear it.
Nuke everybody and himself to own the libs or whatever. Do you guys realize just how cartoony and unrealistic that is? This man who spends so much time and effort rigging elections, assassinating rivals, sitting at these 60-foot tables away from other world leaders is gonna throw all of that away just to stick it to the West? This is not a man willing to die for his cause. Oh, but Hitler killed himself. Yeah, because his country was completely taken over. The Allies had already reached the capital and it was a matter of days before they would reach his bunker, pull him out, and have him executed. The guy had nothing left to lose. Now, yes, if we actually tried invading Russia proper to take over Moscow
Doesn't even understand the whole context of that either. This guy is so ignorant. It's actually hilarious. The dictator of Germany could have fled Germany. He could have fled Germany, most likely to Argentina. Plenty of offers were given to him to flee, but no, he wanting to go down with his country. So that's absolutely false. Even when he was surrounded, he was offered a plane to get out of Germany, and hell, even go to the remaining parts down in Austria to hold out. Right, so
to overthrow Putin, he would go nuclear because in that case he would have nothing left to lose. But in this case, Putin will have a hell of a lot to lose after getting kicked out of Ukraine, and he's not going to give it all up just to get revenge. Hell,
so he's saying that NATO troops should go and intervene in Ukraine. You hear how ludicrous this is, by the way?
he won't even live long enough to feel the gratification of said revenge, because he and his whole family would be vaporized within minutes. Did Saddam kill himself after getting kicked out of Kuwait? No, and that guy was arguably more unhinged than Putin is. Putin is crazy, yes, he's delusional, but he's not suicidal. And besides, the current strategy we're employing also sees Ukraine kicking Russia out of its borders and getting back everything they stole. If Russia is to nuke everyone in response to getting kicked out of Ukraine, as you guys are all saying, they would do that regardless of who kicks them out, especially since they already consider Ukraine to be a puppet of the West or whatever. So then, pardon me, what difference does it make if we kick Russia out of Ukraine, or if Ukraine kicks them out of Ukraine? Because we would be able to do it a hell of a lot faster, save a hell of a lot of lives, and accomplish something that we are already trying to do with our current, slower, less effective method. And as I've said, Russia isn't going to nuke anybody because Putin is not interested in dying. If anything, it would be actually less humiliating for them if we kick them out, because they see Ukraine as a small, weak country that would be embarrassing to get beat by, whereas they know they don't stand a chance against our military and would inevitably be defeated by them. And to be
Russia could unironically steamroll Europe. Europe's military, aside from Poland, is a joke. Poland is like the only country actively like trying to beef its military up. I think France is too. It will still get steamrolled by Russia, to be honest. Maybe Sweden, it will still get steamrolled. Europe is literally carried by America. Obviously, Russia wouldn't be able to beat America. Definitely not, because America has more people, has more money to spend on the military, of course, has more manpower, has more resources. Objectively speaking, Russia wouldn't be able to beat America's military. Well, depending on it. If you just look at it from a whole view in a battleground, I don't know. Russia's military is very good at adapting. It's really good. Like at first, it'll seem like complete garbage, but like if you don't do something about it, which if we pay attention to history over time, it's just hard to completely defeat the Russian military just outright. It usually just licks its wounds, and then it comes back much more prepared and actually capable. So I don't know, Russia versus America. I don't know. That'll be interesting. Maybe America might be able to beat Russia before that can happen. I don't know. That's an interesting discussion. But yeah. Again, do you hear this guy? I mean, he thinks that we should literally freaking invade essentially Russia, because Russia already annexed those parts of Ukraine. Hilariously enough, this is ludicrous, bro.
To be clear, Russia does not see Ukraine, nor the West, nor NATO as an existential threat to them. All this bullshit about Nazis in Ukraine and NATO expansion was just an excuse to sell the war to the Russian population. The one simple
The West, so many Western sources have documented Ukraine's far right issue, dude. It's so, I remember watching so many documentation of this years ago, literally, bro. And yes, NATO expansion is a problem. It is very much a problem. Russia didn't even care about Ukraine joining the EU. It was very much NATO. And you want to know why NATO is a problem? Because Russia doesn't want to cocksuck America. Russia doesn't want to America like what most Western countries do. Russia actually wants to keep its sovereignty and independence and do its own thing. Or should I say do her own thing? America can't have that. America needs to keep every country on a leash. Oh, but how dare a country wants to do what a country wants to do? Only America can do that. So Russia bad. Russia big bad. Blah, blah, blah. And most of the people are going to eat it all up because most people are NPCs.
Simple reason he's invading Ukraine is that he's mad that they are trying to escape Russian influence. I mean, think about it. Why didn't Russia try to invade Finland to stop them from joining NATO? Or the Baltics in 2004? Because Russia does not have as many historical, cultural, and political ties with them as they do with Ukraine. He does.
Oh my gosh. Again, use common sense, for goodness sake. Look at the border of Ukraine. Compare that to the Baltics and Finland. Finland is literally all the way up north in a horrid, inhospitable environment. That could easily be defended. That's not very much a threat. The Baltics could, bloody hell, the Baltics could easily be cut off. And they're small countries. Who cares about them? And the border isn't really a threat anyways. Also, Russia in 2004 was still too busy recovering from the Soviet Union collapse. So, no, that's dumb. Do you see how long the border is with Ukraine? If Ukraine is a NATO, Moscow is threatened. Volgorod. Oh my! I hate pronouncing Russian city name. Volgorod, which is basically Stalingrad, but was renamed after the Volga River. Volgorod is threatened. All of the Caucasus region of Russia is threatened from cut off. This is stupid. Russia's interest in the Black Sea is threatened too. Hilarious. Again, basic common sense, man.
See Ukraine as a threat. He doesn't see them as a liability. He's just mad that Russia won't be able to control them anymore. Now, obviously, him seeing Ukraine or NATO as a threat would not make the invasion any more justified. I'm just saying that, in response to getting defeated in Ukraine and Ukraine joining NATO, he's not going to be like, oh, well, now NATO is going to invade us in a matter of months, so we're just going to nuke everybody because we have nothing left to lose. Like, that's just not going to happen. If we are to kick him out of Ukraine, the whole thing would be very straightforward. We amass troops on the western border of Ukraine, give Putin a clear message that he has 48 hours to withdraw troops from Ukraine's internationally recognized borders and wrap up his so-called special military operation, or we're going to do it for him. If he takes the hint, he will comply, and if he doesn't, then, well, it's going to be a Russian soldier hunting season. We wouldn't even have to deploy infantry, literally just send in a few squadrons of F-35s and F-22s, literally shred their air force, then blow the Russians the fuck out of their foxholes. Once their platoons start...
Oh, wait, do you hear this? Do you hear this? Let's go and destroy the Russian military. Putin wouldn't do anything. Do you hear this? Yes, guys, let's go and destroy the Russian military. That totally wouldn't cause an all-out war to happen. This the fact that this guy unironically made this a video is just bonkers to me. Bonkers, bro. Oh, and the fact that he thinks that the Russian military is as bad as it is even more hilarious. Yes, guys, let's go fight a military that has literally gotten valuable experience from an active conflict. Meanwhile, America doesn't even have enough recent experience other than fighting literal peasants with guns, aka terrorists, for the past, 20 years. Yeah. Oh, we're literally fighting. This is even Russia invading Europe. So it's like, oh, we can easily defeat. No, you're invading Russia. You're fighting Russia on Russia's home turf. Yeah. That would go 100% so well. Yep. Okay.
Are being vaporized in sequential order, they'll realize that they done fucked up and run like rats back across the Russian border. Then after that, the worst that'll happen is that Putin will sever diplomatic ties with the US and throw a tantrum on national television about how those evil Americans ruined his plans to rebuild the Russian Empire. That's it. And
Oh my gosh, bro. No way. No way. No, this has to be a troll. This has to be a troll. This has to be a troll. This has got to be a troll. Yes, guys, my military, even if that happened, you really think that he would just let his military just be vaporized? Which it wouldn't happen. I'm not saying the Russian military would be vaporized. Oh, hell no. It would not be vaporized. By no means. No. No. Definitely not. Because if that happened, you're putting Russia's sovereignty at risk now, because the Russian military will be even more weakened than ever. So, of course, in response, Putin would probably use tactical nukes at first, most likely, to destroy the military that's now at his border, to secure Russia's borders. But then, obviously, America is going to be like, he used nukes, so we got to use nukes now, and then go nuke Moscow, and then he's going to use... Do you see how this would quickly turn into a nuclear war?
and I'm tired of people pretending otherwise. Now yes, this will hurt Putin's reputation, but this guy has done so much to hurt his reputation over the last 25 years, and every single time nothing has happened to him. Every time the Russians have forgiven him, and they'll forgive him this time. He's just gonna assassinate some more of his enemies, and then it's back to business as usual.
That's a stretch. The Russian people are forgiven. Now, I know a lot of people who ironically support Putin, but I've met a lot of people who don't support him, but they understand his perspective, and really and truly, I'm really trying to figure out, like, what has he done that's so bad again? Like, and even if he has done some bad things, I should better say, what has he done that America hasn't done?
God, Russians are so pathetic. Like, we like to make fun of Africa for constantly having all these civil wars and rebellions and shit, like, haha, death to the MPLA, but you know what? It's better to do that than to be a bunch of NPCs who are like, yeah, our government is genociding Ukrainians, but we're not going to do anything about it because it's none of our business. And actually, you know, we like Putin, so we approve of what he's doing. It's so incredibly stupid. Now, if you're a Russian who does not approve of what he's doing, thank you for being on the right side of history, but the rest of them, absolutely ridiculous. But
first of all, don't insult Russian people. Russian people are the most lovely people that I've ever dealt with in my life. Not even kidding. So he wants to talk about Russian people. Let's talk about American people for a second, shall we? Americans, not only are they brainwashed by the government's propaganda and meat right America, right? They'll complain about how, oh, the economy sucks, and they do nothing about it. They'll complain about presidents, and they do nothing about it. They'll complain about how their country is giving all their tax-paying dollars to overseas country, and they do nothing about it. All Americans care about is literally TikTok, social media, all nonsense. It's just nonsense, really and truly. Americans are so docile. You want to talk about how Russians are docile? Americans are the most docile people that I've ever seen. They know what is wrong with the country, and they do nothing about it. And they're supposed to be free. They're supposed to be the freest country in the world. So why are they not doing anything about it? And don't get me started on American women, by the way. Oh my gosh. That's I could honestly rant on and on and on about everything that's wrong about America. Do not say or insult Russian people, first of all. First of all, he's not even genociding Ukrainians. He's not. He's holding back. Hilarious. If he wanted to, he could literally flatten all of Ukraine if he wanted to. He's literally holding back. Not genociding. Go and Google Mariupol rebuilding. Go Google that. Funny how the West doesn't show you Mariupol getting rebuilt. That's not genocide. That's not genocide. I don't think anybody trying to do genocide would do that. Also, and this is where he contradicts himself. Putin says that Russian and Ukrainian people are the same. If we're using Putin's logic, why would he want to genocide other Russian people? That doesn't make sense at all. And he's not even genociding Ukrainian people. Look at the casualty rate of civilians compared to Gaza and Ukraine, and you'll see what true genocide is like. So no, that's why Russian people don't care. There are some Russian people who think that they're on the right side of history. You know, the ignorant people who eat at Western propaganda. Those people. Also, Ukraine, like I said before, unironically did have a far right problem. It's literally the most corrupted country in Europe, even more corrupted than Russia. Literally more corrupted than Russia. They literally wear neo-Nazi uniforms. Or should I say neo-Nazi logos on their military uniforms. Oh, not problematic at all. What was the average wage in Ukraine again? I don't know. They made like a couple dollars per day or something. It's horrendous, dude. Oh, but nothing is wrong with Ukraine. Why would Russian people need to do something when Ukrainians under Russian rule are literally first-class citizens, by the way? I saw this a long time ago. I saw so many Russian people were angry because Ukrainians were literally getting more support from the Russian government than actual Russians, by the way. That's not genocide. That's not genocide. That's not genocide. They were offered to come to Russia, get a Russian passport, and be supplemented by the government. They literally were offered this, by the way. So where's the genocide? Why would Russian people need to do something? Also, there's plenty of Russian people that don't like Putin. But there's no need to do anything. I mean, he's making the country better. Why would you remove him when he's making the country better? Look at the stats of Russia since the fall of the Soviet Union. It has progressed. Meanwhile, if you look at the stats of Ukraine after the fall of the Soviet Union, it has lost population, pre-war stats, by the way. Its economy has gotten worse. Its corruption is horrid. Pre-war. This is all pre-war. But Russia is a problem. Okay. This is ridiculous. An American is insulting Russian people. Russian people tend to be some of the smartest people that I have ever met in my life. Americans are the complete opposite of that. I'm saying this as someone who is not American.
But whatever, I'm getting off track here. The other benefit of directly intervening, because of how quickly everything will be done, is that all these whiny Republicans and terminally online leftists will shut up about calling this thing a...
The irony of saying terminally online, yet this guy sounds like he is unemployed, hasn't touched grass in his life. Maybe if he touched some grass and actually met some Russian people himself, like I did, he wouldn't realize and say the nonsense that he just said about Russian people. I gotta keep my composure here, but honestly, that offended me. That offended me a lot.
Proxy war, or saying that it's taking too much of our time and taxpayer money, or how supplying Ukraine with weapons is fueling World War III. You know how we would actually get World War III? People need to realize what's at stake here if we let Russia do this too long or give them concessions and make Ukraine give up its territories. If we enable Russia to steal land, what's stopping them from trying this whole thing again a few years down the road after they've rebuilt their army, and this time not only attacking Ukraine, but also Moldova, Georgia, and maybe even Kazakhstan? What about the message this sends to other countries?
Ignorance, final boss. Central Asia is literally allies of Russia, by the way. All you idiots who are saying that Russia is trying to make all you idiots who are saying that Russia is trying to restore the Soviet Union, Putin has literally criticized the Soviet Union himself personally and said that it was a bad system and would not restore it. Also, if he wanted to, he could have easily just invaded Central Asia before invading Ukraine. Or he could just invade Belarus. Now ask yourself this question. Why did he not do that? These countries are way more weaker. Central Asia is full of resources too. Because he doesn't want to restore the Soviet Union, dummy. Use basic common sense. Rolling my eyes.
With imperialist ambitions, who will see this and be like, hey, if Russia was able to do it, we will be able to do it as well. And that is when you'll see China go after Taiwan, Serbia go after Kosovo, Venezuela might actually try to invade Guyana.
No way this guy brings up Kosovo. Yes, ignore the NATO bombings in the 90s where NATO completely violated Serbia's sovereignty, but you know, be a hypocrite and talk about how Russia's violating other countries' sovereignty. Again, you see my point? Like, these people will be like, oh, America violating other countries is A-okay, but when Russia does it, oh, big bad. Even though Russia had a legitimate reason to go in Ukraine, by the way.
Armenia and Azerbaijan might start some shit again.
Armenia and Azerbaijan are literally still fighting. What? You're literally, even though the Nagorno-Karabakh war ended like what, 2 years ago, I think it ended like 2023 or 2020. I don't know. They're literally still fighting. Like Azerbaijan is literally still encroaching on Armenia's like actual Armenian territory, not even Karabakh anymore, like Nagorno-Karabakh. No, like they're literally still fighting.
India and Pakistan, it would be an international clusterfuck of epic proportions, and that is how you would, by definition, get World War III, in which you may be drafted.
And China is still going to invade Taiwan, so I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Speaking of India and Pakistan, I'll remind you guys that those countries both have nuclear weapons, and they have fought each other directly in the past while both of them had nukes, and those nukes never got used, because they knew it would be suicide for both of them. That same argument would come into play here, because it would be a conventional fight that would not threaten the existence of either side. The other risk here is that if this war goes on for long enough...
The problem is that if the Russian military gets destroyed in Ukraine, Russia will be exposed and will be forced to use something in response.
That Putin dies in the process, you guys have to understand that he's not going to be replaced by some pro-democracy nice guy. He's going to be replaced by a hardliner who thinks that Putin was too much of a bitch in Ukraine and didn't do his warmongering right, and then that guy might authorize nuclear strikes on Kiev plus Kharkiv and Odessa for good measure. That is the risk we run if we let the...
No. Bro, Russia needs Ukraine. No. This is no. Russia has a population crisis, dude. Use basic common sense. Why would Russia kill... I don't even want to say that. Why would Russia unalive Ukrainians for? Russia is trying to bring them into Russia to fix its population problem. Oh my god, it's basic common sense, dude.
This go on for too long. I mean, hell, it nearly happened about a year ago with that whole Wagner mutiny thing. And the longer we wait, the more of these radicalized goons will line up.
I wouldn't even call that a mutiny. That was just more of a YOLO thing. Just march, YOLO. I don't know what the heck Prigozhin was thinking, to be honest.
Take Putin's place. Are we really going to wait for literal nukes to go off in Ukraine before we take matters into our own hands? If we punch Russia in the throat right now and stop them dead in their tracks, it will destroy any ideas that other people or countries might have had. Plain and simple. And finally, there's the financial argument. Look, our annual defense budget was $820 billion last year. We did not spend 10 years and $67 billion developing the F-22 just to go fucking bomb goat herders with firecrackers in the Middle East. Don't get me wrong, the Houthis are pieces of shit, but we can do so much better than this. All or most of the stuff...
You hear that, guys? People in their own native country defending their own native country are bad. No. Ultimate meat rider, bro. Final boss.
We have in our military was purpose-built to fight the Russians. Republicans like to say that we're wasting money in Ukraine, but the only money
Because we are.
we're wasting is the amount we've spent developing all these fancy toys and never using them to their fullest potential. So how about we stop tiptoeing around these guys just because they have some spooky mushroom cloud bombs and use these weapons how they were intended to be used. When Teddy Roosevelt said to speak softly and carry a big stick, he didn't mean carry it and never actually use it. I honestly hate our foreign policy towards nuclear states. Like, if a country only has conventional weapons, then we're ready to go in there and absolutely destroy them and kick their ass, but if they happen to have a bomb with some uranium inside, that's when we bury our heads in the sand and say, oh no, that's too scary, we don't fuck with that. It's such a pussy-ass attitude. The strongest military in human history is literally scared of a rock. Like, obviously nuclear weapons are extremely destructive and we should avoid using them as best as we can, but that doesn't mean completely
To be honest, I'm kind of losing so much brain cells listening to this. I'm just letting the video play at this point.
backing off when facing anyone who has them. That's not a policy of strength and resolve, that's a policy of cowardice. As I've already said, as long as a country's leadership and general existence is not threatened, they won't resort to nuclear strikes. If somebody needs to be punched in the nose, you gotta punch him in the nose, nuclear weapons or not. So far, the only person who seems to understand this is the president of France, and I greatly respect him for that, and more people need to side with him on this. Even the aid we're currently sending Ukraine is pathetic. We gave them 31 Abrams tanks when they need 100 times that number. Instead of sending them F-16s fresh out of factories by the hundreds, maybe even a few F-35s, we're hiding behind third parties like Belgium and the Netherlands, asking them to donate their old F-16s instead. Because God forbid we hurt Russia's feelings. They're not going to do shit. Hell, we've already crossed our red lines a billion times with no response. Even they know they're not going to do shit. They're not going to do shit because it's not existential for them. Remember when Turkey shot down a Russian fighter jet in 2015, and when the US smoked a bunch of Wagner guys in 2018? In both cases, Russia didn't do shit, and they won't do shit here either. You want to end the war in Ukraine?
This is so bad. I'm starting to yawn.
End Russia's ability to be there. That pretty much ends this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. As always,
Yeah, no, I'd rather dislike this, but disliking videos actually helps the YouTuber. Anyways, yeah, so you just heard the mental insanity for yourself. I think I've said enough good points. I don't even need to debunk any other points because I think the people who made it to the end of the video clearly has enough of an attention span, which shows that they have enough of a high IQ to realize how idiotic this is. Anyways, if you made it all the way here, make sure you like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for me, go on and comment it down below. And you know, go subscribe. You know, go check out my other reactions on my channel. Goodbye.